Before there was Michael Jackson, before Boys II Men or New Edition, there was a group whose harmonies could melt steel, whose choreography could stop traffic, and whose very name came to define temptation itself. This is the story of the Temptations.
Being at Motown at the very beginning, we knew, even at the very early stage of what was happening, that this was a very special place to be.
Detroit, Michigan. Early 1960s. The auto factories hummed by day, but by night, street corners lit up with young men harmonizing under dim street lamps. That's where Otis Williams grew up, dreaming not of cars, but of music. Otis already had his hand in a few local groups, but destiny had other plans. Slowly, 5 young men were brought together, each with a gift. Eddie Kendricks with his angelic falsetto, Melvin Franklin, whose bass could shake the walls, Paul Williams, the passionate performer, David Ruffin, a powerhouse voice that cut straight through the soul, and Otis Williams himself, the steady glue that held it all together. They first called themselves the Elgins. Soon, the world would know them as the Temptations, polished by Motown. Motown wasn't just a record label, it was a finishing school. Under Maxine Powell's guidance, the Temptations learned to carry themselves like gentlemen. How to walk, how to sit, even how to shake hands. Then came choreographer Charlie Atkins, who gave the group their razor-sharp moves. The steps, the spins, the perfectly timed hand gestures. Every motion was like poetry in sync. Can you imagine? Back then, nobody else looked like that, moved like that. Do you think today's group could match that kind of discipline? Let us know in the comments. But style wasn't enough. They needed a song. And that came when Smokey Robinson handed them The Way You Do the Things You Do. Suddenly, the charts lit up. Then came the song that would make them immortal, My Girl. David Ruffin's pleading, heartfelt voice turned that song into a classic. Even today, those first few notes on the bass guitar are enough to make people smile. The Temptations were no longer just another Motown act. They were Motown. Success and struggles. But success came with a price. David Ruffin's star power grew, and so did his ego. He wanted to rename the group David Ruffin and the Temptations. The others refused. Tensions exploded, and eventually Ruffin was gone. Meanwhile, Paul Williams, the group's heart and their best dancer, was quietly battling alcoholism and depression. His story would end in tragedy with his death in 1973. And Eddie Kendricks? His silky falsetto graced hits like Just My Imagination, but Eddie often clashed with Otis about the group's direction. He too eventually left. But the Temptations didn't die. They reinvented. With Norman Whitfield producing, they shifted from sweet love songs to socially conscious psychedelic soul. Songs like Cloud 9 and Ball of Confusion captured the chaos of America in the late 60s and 70s. And then came the masterpiece, Papa Was a Rolling Stone. 7 minutes long, haunting, hypnotic, and it won them 3 Grammy Awards. Here's a question for true fans. Did you know the original version of Papa Was a Rolling Stone was recorded by another Motown act before the Temptations made it legendary? Drop your answer below. The cost of greatness. But greatness has a cost. Melvin Franklin, the booming bass, fought through years of illness. Paul Williams was gone too soon. David Ruffin struggled outside the group. One by one, the original Temptations began to fade away. And yet, Otis Williams remained. The one who wasn't the lead singer. The one who wasn't the flashiest. The one who many fans hardly knew by voice. But Otis was the anchor, the survivor, the one who refused to let the dream die. In his book, Otis admits, I may not have been the star, but I kept the dream alive. The legacy today, when you hear those harmonies, those steps, those timeless songs, you're hearing more than just music. You're hearing the sound of Detroit, the story of Black excellence, and the dream of 5 young men who turned street corner harmonies into history. The Temptations were more than a group. They were a movement. And through Otis Williams, their story still lives on. So next time you hear My Girl, remember, it's not just a song, it's a legacy. Which Temptations era was your favorite? The smooth 60s harmonies or the psychedelic 70s hits? Let's talk about it in the comments. And don't forget, hit subscribe for more stories of R&B legends.